Hello, fellow time travelers. Tony Whitt here. I've just finished editing this episode, and I'm struck yet again by the fact that there's so much that we never get to. We only have so much time to record every episode, what with dogs running around and everything. And as I look over my notes, I notice that yet again, there are all sorts of things we missed in this episode. For example, at one point, the Doctor actually says, "damnation," something that William Hartnell would never have gotten away with on screen, and yet we completely missed the chance to talk about that. So you can do us a favor. If you see that we missed something that you noticed while reading this week's book, or any of the books that we cover in the series, then you can help us out by commenting on our Facebook page or on our brand new subreddit on Reddit, which we didn't even have when we recorded this episode. It's at reddit.com/r as in Randy /DWTargetBC, all run together. If you do so, you might even get a chance to win a free Doctor Who book. Consider it our token of thanks to you for pointing out where we screwed up. And now, without further ado, here's this week's episode. Enjoy! Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome back to the Doctor Who Target Book Club, the podcast in which we undertake the colossal task of discussing in story order all of the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Whitt, and today we again have our three-person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. There's also our intermediate-level casual fan who's seen several episodes but has not previously read any of the books until these podcasts, and this time it's none other than Dalton Hughes. Hello, Dalton.
Hello. Back again.
Back again. Back from the frozen tundra of, North Carolina? South Carolina?
Yeah, it wasn't so frozen.
It wasn't a tundra.
No, it was nice.
But it was the Carolinas, so
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
And finally, we welcome back the novice fan who has seen little to none of the original series still, and has previously read only a few of the books for this podcast, and that's the always lovely Sheena Annapera. Hello, Sheena. Today, we're looking at the novelization of the 6th Doctor Who story, The Aztecs, and without further ado, here are some fast facts.
Doctor Who, The Aztecs, adapted by John Lucarotti from his own script that aired from 5/23/64 to 6/13/64, published by Target Books in 1984. As of this recording in March of 2017, this title is currently out of print, but is available as an unabridged audiobook from BBC Audio, 121 pages.
Alright, a couple bits of trivia about this one. We've spoken previously of John Lucarotti on this podcast. Some of us spoke well of him, others not so well. Yes.
I'm guessing you.
Yeah, exactly. That would be me.
I can tell your taste.
He wrote the script and the novelization of Marco Polo, which we addressed in our 4th episode of the podcast. So if you'd like to know more about this extremely interesting and well-traveled writer, our listeners, you should go back and listen to that episode. It is a good listen. It also marks the first time our panel has ever actually disagreed about the quality of a book. Well, actually, it was just me disagreeing, but whatever. Alright, I'm going to read you the blurb on the back. The TARDIS materializes in Mexico during the Aztec civilization. The Doctor and his companions step outside to discover they are inside a tomb. The tomb, it turns out, of Yetaxa, once high priest of the Aztecs. Barbara is hailed as Yetaxa's reincarnation by Otlok, the High Priest of Knowledge, and Tlotoxl, High Priest of Sacrifice, when they find her in the precincts of the tomb wearing the bracelet of the deceased priest, now revered as a god. And she takes advantage of her position of unaccustomed power to try and dissuade the Aztecs from practicing human sacrifice. Ooh. Not quite as exciting as the blurb for Marinus, but yeah, it at least describes the story. I'm going to pass around the book because this is an interesting one. The cover, it does capture the story. The weird thing about it is, though, that this is 1984, and by this point they are doing covers that have actors who are in the story as part of the cover, like they did with Marco Polo.
Yeah.
And I assume that's supposed to be Tlotoxl on the cover, but that is not the actor who played Tlotoxl. Doesn't look anything like him, in fact. It's just really weird. They would have had the photo references for the actor whose name is escaping me. But that's not him. That's just some generic Aztec blood sacrificer, I guess.
Some white guy who looks like an Aztec.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's exactly what it is. So I'm going to start off just jumping right in. What were your first impressions of this one? Sheena, let's go with you first.
My first impressions, I liked it, but I don't know, it's just kind of, I don't know, from the last story we read, it was kind of like monotone to me, sort of. Like,
Really?
it was just kind of, you know
Ah.
what I mean? Like, just because the last book was just like, up, you know, you're in different places, you're going to different worlds. I did like that it was, you know, about a certain time frame, like in the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought it was kind of funny, some of the things with it, like the fact that they got there and they could all speak
Oh.
Aztec, even though that's
Aztec.
probably even though that's
Whatever the
probably
language
the
was.
whole like TARDIS thing,
Mm-hmm.
or that's how it would be answered. But I just thought it was kind of funny.
It was the first time you noticed it?
Yeah,
Probably because they're in an Earth
yeah,
setting.
like it at the whole different time. Yeah, exactly.
I hadn't thought about that. It does make it's a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? It's more conspicuous when they go back to Earth and
Yeah.
they're definitely in another culture.
Yeah,
And suddenly they are speaking the language.
of
Yeah.
a certain time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one you didn't like.
I mean,
nearly
it
as
was
much.
okay. I liked it. It was really easy to read. I didn't not like it. I just didn't. It wasn't like my fave so far.
Okay.
Not your cup
Alright.
of tea.
Yeah.
This is the first time you've even come close to disliking one
Yeah,
of
it's
these.
not that I disliked it. It was just kind of like I liked parts of it. I liked certain aspects of it, but that's probably just like the feminist part of me that probably liked those parts. But
yeah.
Go Barb.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, in all honesty, I mean, it was just kind of like,
All right, Dalton.
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed getting like multiple plot lines happening at the same time. I feel like I know we talked about on the last podcast we talked about Keys and Marinus having a very James Bond feel, but I feel like this really has like espionage kind of feel where you're
Really?
like you're getting like double crosses and you're getting double crosses and you're
Yeah.
getting like people acting one way behind someone's back and you're getting like all of this it felt very much like espionage and it felt so like having that being brought up with like it being the Aztecs was just interesting. It's you know thinking
So-
of in the historical context.
The political machinations, in other words.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is a very political story in some ways.
Yeah.
We've got Otlock and Tlotoxl vying for power, even though
Yeah.
Otlock's got the power, Tlotoxl seems to want it.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And I felt like that was something that kind of tied back to some of the different characters we had seen in previous stories. Just that seemed to be like a theme through Marco Polo with Tigana being the intermediate Doctor Who fan in other stories that I've seen.
Right.
Where there's that bit of a character that's a little deceptive and a little driven by their own want.
Yeah. And in fact, that's something we really should talk about, whether or not Tlotoxl's motivations for what he does are clear ones. Because with Marco Polo, Tigana's motivations aren't really all that clear. He's just a villain to be a villain. Whereas Tlotoxl, I don't know if those motivations are clear or not.
I mean, I think it's just with him. It's their culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
what they do. They sacrifice people, and these other people are from. I mean, well, some of them are from the future or wherever, and then some are from like the 60s, 70s. They span time, but in the present, almost kind of. They think sacrifice is bad, but this is like what they believe in. But then they're trying to. When Barbara tries to, make it so that they don't sacrifice anyone, that's kind of where they get messed up, where they could have just let it go,
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think he's a true villain in the sense that he's doing anything that's not outside the norm for their culture.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more like a conflict between conservatism and progressivism.
Yeah.
Because
There are
that
people
kind of
that don't want to change.
yeah.
Yeah.
And really, in the end, that's kind of like the moral of the whole story, and kind of what it ends up turning to is the Doctor basically saying to Barbara, this is how things are. You can't change that.
Right.
Overall.
Yeah.
But you did change one person's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that led him to do whatever. It's kind of like open-ended what happened to Otlok. But
because it ends up being about saving one man rather than an entire civilization.
Yeah, a doomed civilization, which they knew how that was going to turn out anyway. And ultimately, I feel like, reading this, it's like, Barbara, do you really think that... I mean, they say Cortez is coming in 12 years. It's like, do you really think 12 years is going to completely change the way the Aztecs existed?
A lot can happen in 12 years.
A lot can happen in 12 years, but you have to look at the history of the Aztecs. It was a history that took way more than 12 years to get to where it was.
Yeah, that's a point.
Well, it also, too, though, would do, like, against the whole, like, how typical time travel is seen as that, like, with the butterfly effect.
Right.
So-called. You go back, you change one thing, and everything changes. This is saying, like, no matter what you do, you're not going to change time.
Yes.
So I kind of like that in a sense that it's not like, oh, I kill a bug here and then there's dino. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Which is kind of ridiculous. But I like the fact that it was like you time traveled back. You're not going to change anything. You might change a few people. Maybe when Cortez comes, they won't all get slaughtered, and who knows? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
But it's not going to really change the whole.
One more point, and then we can move on. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah,
I like the way they brought that up with, the Doctor kind of proves that with the first initial sacrifice they see. Barbara's like, no, and they keep him from being killed with the knife, but then he jumps off, and he still dies. And in the end, the event still took place, but it just wasn't the way they wanted it to be. So it's kind of in a way like you said. The event still happened. Time still happened. Yeah. And what needed to happen still happened in a way. It just wasn't what they expected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is actually the first time that Doctor Who ever tries to address that. What it is that a time traveler can and cannot do in time. They're going to get much more excited dog. They're going to get much tighter about that as they go on, obviously, until you get to the concept of fixed points in time with the new series. And in fact, I think we talked about the Fires of Pompeii episode before, when the Doctor and Donna, that's right, the Doctor and Donna, the 10th Doctor and Donna, arrive in Pompeii on Volcano Day.
Yeah,
and she wants
to warn people and nothing can be done.
She wants to do that.
Yeah.
He says, we can't.
Yeah.
Because as a Time Lord, I know what these points are and that they can't be changed.
Yeah.
And yet things end up happening slightly differently, and they realize, there's alien intervention here. There's at least some wiggle room. We can do something about it. But this is the first time the Doctor says anything along the lines of, you can't change history, not one line.
Yeah.
It's more, you can't change this history.
Yeah.
This is always going to happen. I wrote in a Doctor Who magazine about that, and I said, it's nice to see, after Fires of Pompeii aired, and I said, it's nice to see this formulated for the first time since, say, the Aztecs, and I won some free books as a result, because it was Letter of the Month, so I was like, my little claim to fame there. But it means that this is a fairly important story in Doctor Who history, because it finally starts shaping what's going to come later as to how time travel and how the Doctor's adventures can have an effect on anything.
Yeah.
To the point that they do. Which is fascinating.
And that would only have to do with, in our realm of time anyway. If they come back to Earth. Because otherwise there's no... What are you going to base it against?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because I believe what Lucarati meant when he said you can't change history, not one line, he meant exactly what you meant, which is Earth's literal history.
Yeah.
Anything that happened before Barbara and Ian were born, they can't change.
Yeah.
Except 2 stories later, they're going to end up in revolutionary France, and things aren't going to change there either,
Yeah.
but they'll at least know that they can't change.
Yeah.
It comes later to mean any point that the Doctor says is important in what's called the web of time. And that's something that comes up again in an otherwise really stupid story called Attack of the Cybermen. That's just ridiculous. In a nutshell, this is what happens. The Cybermen's home planet, Mondas, comes back into Earth's solar system in 1986. The events of this story take place in 1985. It's actually filmed in 1985. The Cybermen have traveled back in time to try to prevent that from happening. But it always does happen.
It's always going to happen.
Because it's part of the web of time. Yeah, and that's the only time they really get back to it, to say certain events always happen.
No matter what.
Yeah, like the upcoming Dalek invasion of Earth, for instance. The Doctor can only change part of that, the part that he's actively involved in. But could he actually go back a few years and stop the Daleks from invading? Never.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
It has to happen just the way you can change how... You might be able to change the outcome, just not the fact that they came.
Exactly. So the question I have for y'all about this is... This is the Doctor's first insistence that they not interfere. Is it to save their necks? Is it because this is history and he knows it? Or is it a combination of both?
I would say both.
Okay, why so?
I would say both because, A, like you said, he already knows about time, and that you can't change time, or you can't change a whole civilization, and that's not going to happen.
Right.
But also, too, the fact that she keeps interrupting certain things that they're doing, it's making her look like a false god. And the whole time, she came, if she would have put the bracelet on her arm, they wouldn't have thought she was a god, they would have killed her.
Right.
And they would have killed everybody else. So the fact that she posed as a god and ran with it and knew some history about the Aztecs, that helped her out. So she was able to play the part and whatever. But then when she keeps interrupting things and trying to make them the way she wants them, it's like throwing the balance off. And they know that a god of theirs would never do that. So that's why it's both.
So it's to keep them safe.
Yeah, it's to keep them safe, and because he knows you can't change a whole civilization. And they're only going to be there for a short amount of time anyway, so
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So, there's not much you can do. He's probably just trying to get in and get out as easy as he can.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah. I think it gets into kind of like a gray space, because it's dealing with a history of somewhere that we know the history of. So the fact that we as readers know that the Aztecs existed as a civilization on planet Earth, we have to worry about keeping their history intact, keeping their story and what happened intact. Whereas before, if they're on a different planet, and they even touch on this in the new series, which I've seen a good bit of, if stuff is happening currently, then they're more active. They're more involved in making the history.
Right.
But the Doctor knows that this is something that's in the past. It's a time machine. So they are in the past, and he's trying not to influence the future. And given that Barbara and Ian are from Earth, he doesn't want to influence their future and quite possibly end up, messing with their timelines. So yeah, it's both. It really is both. And so that layer, it's there. It wasn't so much there in Marco Polo, which I thought was kind of unusual.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was just because it was an earlier story. Maybe that was something they thought of as they started to kind of
I think that might be
write it. It's this is dealing with time. This is dealing with space. How do we deal with the implications involved in changing history?
Right. And I'm wondering if the reason why that doesn't come up in Marco Polo is because in Marco Polo, supposedly, getting there is half the fun. It's all the fun.
Yeah.
The whole thing is the travelogue. And there's nothing necessarily happening that they have to change, that they see could be changed. There's nothing
Or
in
that
Marco
they'd
Polo.
want to change.
Or that they
Yeah.
want to change, exactly.
Yeah.
They wanted the
Yeah.
Native Americans to not ever have
Yeah.
their land taken away,
Right.
but that's not going to happen.
And I guess that brings up the point that this is, like we said, changing who the Aztecs are has a larger implication than Marco Polo traveling with
the Americas.
these unusual travelers. That's
Right.
just part of his own personal
Yeah.
history as opposed to history as a larger idea.
Sure. That leads to my next question then, and this is something that I've been, ever since first reading this book in the 80s and then seeing the episode a few years later, I wondered about this. If Barbara had been successful, what would actually change?
When the Spaniards got there, they
Yeah.
would have. Well, I mean, I don't think anything would have changed. I mean, the
Spaniards
Spaniards
still
would have
would've
got
walked
there.
behind.
They still would have wanted all the gold, and they still would have probably tried to kill as many as they could. I don't think the Spaniards came there and were like, "Oh no, these people are giving human sacrifices. Let's take all their gold and kill them." Like
Right.
they were going to do that regardless.
Yeah,
so
they were-
I don't think it would have really changed anything. I think that's kind of like when this book was written, what, in the 80s you said?
Right.
I think that was kind of like the consensus of maybe back then of like what happened because
Right.
like they didn't really like, I remember when I was a kid, like they didn't teach you about the fact that like white, the Spaniards would come to America and just kill everybody. There was no real reason other than the fact that they wanted the stuff that they had.
They were
You know what I
conquistadors.
mean? Like,
They were
yeah,
conquerors.
they came here to conquer. So
Yeah.
I don't think it would have changed anything. I think it's just like a nice way to think about things that maybe it would, but it would have happened regardless.
Okay, all
I
right.
think.
So
I
it
mean,
probably would have ended up
in my
being the same
mind
anyway.
now, yes. If I was in the 80s, I probably would have thought about this kind
Well,
of differently because
and-
nobody thought about it like that.
Well, and from my understanding of the Aztecs and the Incas, the Incas were more of a peaceful civilization,
Right.
from my understanding, and the same thing still happened to them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it would,
if the Aztecs would have been just as more peaceful, it still would have happened.
Yeah.
If not easier.
Yeah.
The fact the Aztecs were more of a I don't want to say warmongering, but that they were able to defend themselves some.
yeah.
Right.
They still could fight back, but
Yeah.
like they even say in the book, you're not going to match the power of the conquistadors with anything that the Aztecs had
Yeah.
at their disposal.
Right.
Well,
It
I mean,
just-
at
it couldn't
first they
compare.
would have been able to, like, literally kill all the first ones that came there. But I mean, as people who've read history books, we already know that, like, they thought somebody white would come from across the sea and, would change things. You know what I mean?
Right.
They didn't know if it was for the bad or for the good, but this was something that was already prophesized.
Yeah.
So,
and sadly
in all
enough,
actuality, and then like the whole like part with the with the sacrifices and how they say it in the book, how they kept sacrificing like thousands to try to get like them to go away.
Yes.
That was just an act of desperation, probably.
Yeah, and strangely enough, that's a historical fact
Yeah,
too. That
yeah.
did happen. That the Aztecs went through a terrifying period of just thinking that sacrifice was going
Yeah,
to take
that the
care
god
of
would
everything.
the gods would look
Be
down.
appeased by
yeah.
more blood.
And part of that could also be too that if they really did believe that sacrificing themselves did indeed make them gods, then that would be the ultimate way to go out.
Yeah.
Why be killed by someone
Somebody
from
you don't
across the
know,
sea,
yeah.
fighting them when you can sacrifice yourself to your god and know in the end, for your own belief, that is something you should do. That's the most honorable thing you could do.
Right.
Was to sacrifice yourself for your people.
Yeah, and Otlok's response when he hears about that day is horrified.
Yeah, he's mortified.
But he is also thinking, he's probably thinking, as any right-thinking Aztec would think, is, well, if it was necessary to do it, sure, but she points out it comes to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, what are the results, or something like that, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no result to
There's
it.
no avail to it. There's no silver lining at all. Just
No.
Yeah. So I think in the end, like that, what I'm discovering, Tony, in reading a lot of these, and what I've experienced with seeing a lot of the series, is just there are so many larger philosophical questions
Yes.
that arise, which is really like, I mean, I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if it's just part of the amazing tapestry of history that we have to draw from. But yeah, it's really interesting to see all these things play out and make you really question your own beliefs, your own feelings about things. So yeah.
And as Well, bearing in mind that there's still that educational mandate to the show at this point. I mean, obviously, this is the historical. They're learning history.
Of course.
There you
of
go.
course.
Yeah.
And they're learning mostly accurate history. Some of it turns out to be wrong in the televised version, and Lucarati changes that around and does certain things such as correct some of the cringier lines in the televised episodes. Susan just goes, gaga over the fact that there are cartoons on the walls, but she doesn't ask about the cartoons and what they mean in the televised version. Because
You
she's
talked
just
about
an
this
idiot.
in the last one.
Oh, really?
Remember when we were, it's probably like the second book, you had brought that up.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
for the
about the
Daleks.
hieroglyphs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And in the book, at least, she says, well, why is that? And Barbara has an answer for her, which is not in the televised version. But I'm wondering if all that philosophy, that's the word I was trying to say, philosophy is intentional, if they're trying to teach a little bit of philosophy and say, okay, if you could travel back in time and stop this from happening,
Would you?
would you?
Yeah.
I mean, they are, for instance...
I think that's the whole thing of writing about time travel, though. You know what I mean? It's like, if you are, as a human, in your life, if you could go back in time, would there be things you'd change?
Right.
Of course there would be.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think anyone who time traveled would say, oh, okay, I would stop this from happening.
Yeah.
I would,
Like the Hitler paradox.
Yeah,
for
that's
instance.
exactly
Yeah.
what I was thinking when I was saying it. But you know what I mean? Like, I would do that, or I would do this, or try to change things if you can. And I think that's smart that you can't.
Yeah. Well, Genesis of the Daleks, Tom Baker's story, will address that. And the Doctor himself, when he is faced with actually destroying the Daleks forever, he says, if you were taken back and shown a child, and you were told that that child would grow up to kill millions, would you kill that child? They don't say Hitler, of course.
Yeah.
And his companion very, very, very reasonably says, we're talking about the Daleks here. You do realize it's not a child we're talking about, it's the Daleks, but it's still that question. This might be what they were aiming for. And I think it's part of the reason why this story is so well regarded, because when it comes to plotting, it's kind of a typical TARDIS crew is separated from the TARDIS, they have to get back to it, that sort of runaround, which Hartnell stories do a lot.
Yeah.
But this one has that deeper dimension to it that and Barbara. Let's talk about Barbara. Oh my God. What did you think of Barbara in this book?
I love Barbara. I mean, I've always loved Barbara from the first story I read with her. She always was interesting. She always was that character that seemed... She was curious, but she was reserved. She was thoughtful. She was always, like, cerebral. She was thinking about things. Mm-hmm. Whereas, sometimes Ian's just, like, acting.
Oh, yeah.
And doing. And it's like, but that's...
He's such a boy.
Right. That's the way you get in trouble. Like... Think about what you're going to do. Think about how your actions could have effects. And maybe Barbara, saying that now, Barbara maybe isn't quite thinking about the effects. But I love her just kind of coming into her own and kind of just taking control and being like, well, this is as much my adventure as it is yours, Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still here too. I'm still here trying to figure this all out as well. Who says you're always right?
Right.
So I liked that. I liked her just kind of like stepping in there
and she sets herself up against him in
Yeah.
probably the first time since Edge of Destruction. This is the first time they've had a serious kind of, butting of heads, which is always good when you have that sort of narrative conflict in a script. But what about you, Sheena?
I agree. In the sense that I think she was incredibly strong. She used her acting chops, even though who's to say she's an actress? But she used her knowledge of something she knew. Yeah. She played, with it. She was able to, show herself as a regal, goddess, and she, she played the part.
Right.
I do think it was kind of foolish to think that you could change things. When I was reading it, I was like, "Oh, Barbara, what are you doing?" every part where she would go in way. She would be like, oh, okay, well, I don't want sacrifices. Then they would think, oh, Susan, well, Susan's got to go here now. And it's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like every little thing she did, it kind of made Ian have to become, this warrior, and then
Right.
like Susan had to go to this school, and the doctor had to go to this old folks garden. You know what I mean? So it's like
And get engaged.
it's like I get it, Barbara. I know you're doing a good, but yeah.
Yeah, she's causing more
Yeah,
conflict
she kind of
for
was the
them.
person who was driving the wheel of conflict, sort of.
And it's something...
Even though she was doing it for she was doing it for a noble cause. This is only maybe 6 books in,
Yeah.
and I don't think she gets the whole journey yet. You know what I mean?
Not quite.
Not at
So-
the beginning. I think
yeah,
by
yeah.
the end of it, she kind of
Yeah.
understands.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean, I love the fact that she was able to, take her knowledge and use it and act the part, and, she got, a few people to, understand her, which was good. She definitely did have the ball rolling on the story
Oh,
of
yeah.
Hospice for sure. She
Absolutely.
gripped the story for sure.
Definitely.
Her and Ian, I think.
And she comes off so much better in the book. She's fantastic in the televised version, yes, but there are also all these nice little bits in the book, such as my favorite moment in the entire book is when she first hears that Susan, not knowing that it's Susan, has rejected the advances of the
Marriage.
perfect victim of
Yeah.
marriage. And internally she says, "Good for you, girl."
Yeah.
Yeah.
In chapter 10, page 81. And it's just this amazing moment which doesn't obviously come across on screen because it can't. But all that internal stuff. And Susan comes off as even stronger too, which is strange. She's not particularly weak in the televised version, but she does break down in tears at one point when she's in that school. Whereas that doesn't happen in the book. It's more like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to choose who I marry. And of course, in maybe 5 or 6 more stories, she will. So she'll be gone. And we won't have to deal with Susan anymore. A day that I'm kind of looking forward to avidly. But no. Susan's fine. It's just she gets on your nerves a bit. Kameka. We need to talk about Kameka. We need to talk about the doctor's fiancé.
Doctor's fiance.
How do we think he feels about her? Is she a means to an end that he's feeling kind of guilty about, or does he end up kind of having feelings that obviously he can't really do anything about?
I think he likes her. I
Yeah.
think he says at one point, at a different time, different place, this would work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he likes her. I just think, there's nothing he can do. He's not going to stay in this time. She's not going to go with him.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
one
think
of
that
those
ever would have
things.
occurred to
Yeah,
them
it's
back then.
it's like one of those things to where it's like you could like somebody, but it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
True.
And
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever felt that it was like a romantic thing. It was like a kindred spirit thing. It was like a you get me kind of thing.
Mhm.
It was like they just really understood each other.
Yeah.
I really I'm a bit of a romantic. I really liked the part with the cocoa.
The
I
cocoa
always-
beans, the
that
cocoa
was
beans are sweet.
So sweet and so understated and so just like that would be in a romantic comedy.
Yes.
But yeah, the doctor knows that he's leading her on, and I think
and he feels bad for it.
I think initially he felt like yes, it was a means to an end. It was I need you to help me figure this out, and he's using her. But I feel like by the end of it, he really does kind of feel this kinship.
Yeah.
And like you said, Sheena, of course he knows he can't stay
Yeah.
there. She's not going to come with him.
Yeah.
The Aztecs are going to be completely obliterated. It's going to happen,
Yeah.
and it's just this kind of acceptance of what it is.
It's kind of like the amount of time you had with the person is good enough.
Yeah. And obviously there's something because you get that very last
the very
paragraph.
end, yeah.
The doctor put the pulley wheel into his pocket and felt something else. He took it out, and even in the dim light of the tomb, he knew it was the brooch Kameka had given him in the garden. It came from the tomb, therefore it should be left in the tomb, he thought. But then again, Kameka had given it to him as a present, so he slipped it back into his pocket, went into the TARDIS, and closed the door. And it's like this wonderful bit of disingenuousness on the doctor's part. It's like, well, she gave it to me as a present. I can keep it.
Well, I can keep it.
Yeah, and it's a shame because there's this lovely non-verbal moment in the televised version at the very end. He takes the brooch out of his pocket, he looks at it, smiles sadly, puts it on the tomb, and then starts off for the TARDIS, and then immediately just goes back and grabs it, almost like, oh, no. And then goes back in, and it's this regretful kind of, no, I've got to take this with me. And it's not quite covered by that paragraph, and yet those feelings are definitely there.
Yeah, it's definitely implied. I even pictured it in my head, this kind of like moment of looking at it, maybe placing it, and then...
Well, feeling like it's not your place to keep a piece of history type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then he's like, oh, well, what's my history? I made it.
It's my history.
Yeah.
She gave it to me.
She gave it to me, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's sitting around the TARDIS somewhere on a shelf.
Surely. It's in one of those hallways.
Yes, it's probably with all the keepsakes he got from Sarah Jane and from Rose and every other companion that fell in love with him.
Yeah, so many.
Exactly.
And also so many females in history.
Yeah, like Cleopatra and
Queen Elizabeth.
Oh, God. Yes, the Virgin Queen, not when I got through with her. Oh, it's just like, New Who gets so disgusting with that stuff. It really does, and it takes away some of the romance that comes from
something like that.
Yeah, which is just lovely, especially the Coco scene. Especially since that is played for laughs in the televised version. Hartnell's a very good comic actor. And that comes across in the book too, but also it's hilarious that on the DVD of the Aztecs they do a South Park type animation with Tlotoxl and the other guy, and they talk about what the actual recipe according to the Aztecs for hot chocolate was. It had some blood in it. Yeah, because of the blood and everything.
I thought it did.
Yeah, so he didn't exactly prepare it correctly. Maybe that's why she thought it was...
the romance team.
The romance part, yeah, the romance kind of it. About Lucarati's writing style. Well, you and I have had this discussion, so I'm going to ask Sheena to weigh in on this. What did you think of Lucarati as a writer?
I thought that it flowed quite well. Unlike some of the other books, it didn't like interrupt in places or skip. It did seem a little more. It seemed like, I don't know, I don't want to say like not unintelligent, but like a little more childish.
Okay, so it's geared more towards a younger audience.
I mean, there was like the parts that were like, of course, philosophical, like thinking like, would you go... These are all thoughts that as adults we have, though, as we talked about before. I do think it was a lot of an easier read, in the sense that, even though I said this about the last one, and when I mean easy read before, with the last book, Keith Mary's, I mean that like it flows, like when I read it, I'm just like, da 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 da. This was more of like simplistic to me. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't, there was no twists and turns that I kind of wasn't expecting.
Okay. It was all telegraphed to something.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say it was bad.
Right.
I never thought it was bad. I just thought it was incredibly easy.
Okay.
Which is not always bad.
Not necessarily, especially for the target audience.
Exactly.
No pun intended. Anyway, sorry about that. Dalton.
Yeah, I feel like he wrote Marco Polo. Yeah, so I got a lot of that similar kind of, lots of descriptors, lots of adjectives, lots of like, you really could get a feeling of the place and what it looked like, and there was a lot of that. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. But like you said, I feel like it really flowed. It really you could really know what was happening because it was just was
there
dictated.
Was for me
there.
There was parts of it though, like with the pulley system and like the string, and like when he was trying to explain those things, I was like trying to think about like, how does this work?
Yes.
Like, what are you saying? And that was what I didn't understand. You know what I mean? So like when he was describing parts of the temple or whatever, like it was like, I'm not like, how is a piece of silk, like when they were saying they were they were trying to get into the temple, right? I'm trying to imagine, okay, this string is going, which way is it going? Is it going up? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, I know it's going up, but like, where is this in conjunction to where they are?
Exactly.
Some of that,
and that's what I couldn't understand, and that's the part that was like, ugh.
Some of that, and that's.
And I reread it, and I'm like, why am I rereading this? Because it doesn't explain it.
Well, you know what I mean? it's a problem that we've had with a number of the books where the ending is so truncated. The ending is so just like, and this is what happened.
Yeah.
And I feel like it plays out better on the screen because something that's...
Maybe you could see, because you can
it's
visualize
it's a pulley system that helps to pull it up and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it's just like, this is what happened. And it's trying to explain a very quick amount of time.
Yeah, you're right.
And trying to just get it out.
Yeah. But that was like one of the things about his writing that I didn't really care for was that, like, there was just things that were explained that weren't really explained. And it was something that I felt like needed to be explained.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
like a piece of silk string. Okay, they went to the aqueduct system, which means they went in under. He went back up. Now, is where Barbara was, posing as a false god. Was that in the same temple?
Yes. She's at the top of the temple.
So then he went up. He went
all
down.
the way up.
He went all the way to the top. Pulled the string down.
Oh, well, the string is actually for the
for the door.
Yeah.
And that was above them?
No.
See, that's what I'm not like.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying
That's
to...
what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
It's,
and I reread these things and I was like, where is this door?
That's interesting because
that's how I like, when I'm reading something, I like to feel like I'm doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I thought it made more sense now that I was able to see it in print, especially with all this back and forth between the Doctor and Ian about, no, it works this way because fulcrums work this way.
Because you have to pull up and out. I got that part.
Yeah.
But like, where in the scope of things is this? Is this above them? Is it... Well, you know what I mean? I'm guessing it's above them because they're probably on a plateau where they do the sacrifices, and the pyramid's probably behind them.
Right. There's an inner chamber, and then there's the wall, and that flips out.
And it flips out, so they have to get it to go up. But then how would that work?
It doesn't make a lot more sense in the televised version.
Yeah. Because he's like, I should have put it on the door because the door would have been leveraged. I think too much into things, probably.
No. That's something that needs to be there.
Like,
part of it is just them trying to explain very
quickly something
very
that takes
quickly
a
lot of scientific and mathematic and physics.
Physics.
It's a lot of physics to try to explain really quickly.
Yeah.
And like in the show, I'm sure it's just like action.
Yeah.
And they just
a string and everything.
They still have the same problem, but they won't work it through the same way. And they do end up doing the pulley with the wheel and all that. But I'll admit, I've watched that story many times because I love the story. The televised version is amazing. But you get to that point and you're like, why is this not pulling now? And I can kind of get it. Because
and then how did they get it to pull, though? Yeah. Because of the pulley.
Oh, because it's wrapped around the wheel and it's causing a counterbalance to happen.
But but the string is coming from inside the pyramid.
Yes, but they have the other end of it out here.
But how is that going to... Is it because it's pulling it this way, and so the door is swinging out?
I think so, yeah.
I mean,
I think that's it.
Yeah,
so,
but they don't have that without the pulley.
They
won't have the
the counterbalance.
Okay.
Yeah, and it really is like a bunch of physics. And
Yeah.
it's totally just like the way you would pull on a door.
Yeah.
Like if you try to pull it one way, it's not going to work just because
you have to pull it
not
up.
exactly the right type of motion.
And you would think that would be clearer in the televised version, but here I find anyway, for me anyway, it's clearer. And it's one of the things that Luke Rodney does well. He also does fight sequences well. Yeah. Weirdly, better than Marco Polo.
Yeah.
Because remember, I was complaining constantly in Marco Polo about the fact that you'd read a line and you realize, oh, someone got killed. Oh, yeah, in the moment he got killed. It's like, what?
It was like a sentence of...
Yeah. Whereas the fight sequences with Ixta are actually fairly well described.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah, and he also did something that I absolutely love him for. I know, I just said I love John Lucarotti. I can't believe it either, listeners. But yes, he changes the ending, the final fight between Ian and Ixta, so that Ian isn't at fault for Ixta's death. In the televised version, it's pretty much Ian's fault.
Oh.
Okay.
Because Ixta charges him and he ducks and lets him flip over and he falls off the temple. Here, if I remember correctly, that's not how it happens.
It says that he kind of
shuffles back from the
he goes backwards and falls backward.
I mean, in the televised version, I haven't seen it, but like if you're charging at someone and they duck out of your way and you fall off, that is your fault.
Yeah.
It's still not Ian's fault. You shouldn't have been charging at him like a jerk face. Like,
well, he was trying to kill you, and if he dies, then that's his problem.
Exactly.
That's his problem.
I mean, Ian should not feel...
Yeah,
Ian should not
He's doing
feel...
nothing but trying to kill you.
That's his fault.
Constantly, too. Why is it? I realize why. It's because Tlotoxl has caused this sort of power struggle to happen.
Yeah.
Next to says,
it
no,
would have
I
happened
was...
regardless.
Yeah, it probably would have. But if it hadn't been for Tlotoxl, whose name I could never pronounce, saying, no, your servant must lead our armies, and that's Ixta's position, that's...
Yeah, I don't
conflict that
think
wouldn't have been
Barbara or the goddess that she was playing would even really care.
Mm-mm.
So
No.
he made the whole thing about it.
Yeah, I believe so. Wikipedia, I think, makes a mistake in regards to this book. Wikipedia says that John Lucarotti states that Ian and Barbara in this book are from the 1980s.
In the book he says that?
Yeah. That Wikipedia actually says Lucarotti makes Barbara and Ian travelers from the 1980s. The only thing that I was able to find
I don't
is
remember.
there's no reference to it. The only reference to the 1980s is on page 1. Ian took one from the toolkit, that's referring to a screwdriver, and gave it to the doctor, remarking that with any luck they were on Earth during the 1980s. In an aerospace factory where the TARDIS could be thoroughly overhauled.
Yeah.
I didn't read that as them being from the 1980s.
Me either.
No.
I read that as Ian saying, I'm from the 60s. I'm sure in 20 years' time,
Yeah.
even my culture will have something more advanced
do
and
that.
be able to do
Yeah,
that.
I didn't take that as that.
Yeah, they're not from the 80s.
Yeah.
Listeners, Wikipedia is wrong.
Yeah.
They're not from the 1980s.
Wikipedia is written by people who write it, isn't it?
Yeah, someone did not look up their
Yeah.
citation correctly.
Yeah, so I probably have to go in and change
You have
that
to
at
keep
some
like
point.
trying to change history of Wikipedia.
Exactly. And it's not a
From
fixed
Barbara.
point.
Yeah.
Aha! Yeah, because history is still being written. Lucarotti also changes the dates. Squeaky again. Lucarotti also changes the dates. I don't know if you knew this. For instance, in the televised version, she says that the Yetaxa died sometime around 1430, but in the book it's 1507.
Okay.
And I think the main reason they do that is because they then say the Spanish landed in 1519, and I think the whole point of that is that her saving Otlock is much more immediate. Because here's what I think. If she were to save him as early as 100 years earlier, God only knows what that could end up doing. That could change history, because he would be a former Aztec going off to some other culture and somehow changing
Maybe telling
that.
them something. And...
Yeah. Whereas here, she seems not only to save him, but also there's that weird reference to Christ. Did anyone get that?
Where at?
Yeah, is in chapter 13. In chapter 13, appropriately enough, the chapter called False God.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a strange reference to Christ. It is page 106. It's the last page of chapter 13. And this is Otlock speaking to Barbara. She says, "What manner of people are you?" she demanded in indignation, "who wallow in virtue and in bestiality." Bestiality?
Yeah, when I read that word, I was like, bestiality.
Bestiality? They're not doing any... Well, they worship turtles. Maybe that's what she's talking about. You Aztecs are schizophrenics. No, they didn't. No, they worshipped rabbits. Strangely enough. They worshipped rabbits. You Aztecs are schizophrenics. Otlock looked at her uncomprehendingly for a moment, probably because he didn't know the word schizophrenic. Then the realization dawned in his eyes. You Aztecs, he repeated. What manner of people are you? Yes, I yield ground to Tlotoxl on one point. You are not the great spirit of Yetaxa. You are not of our nation. I know not who you are, nor from whence you and your servants come. He pointed to the blood-red curtain. That secret is sealed in Yetaxa's tomb. A god you may be, but none of my knowing. He walked away from Barbara, his posy flowers against his chin, then turned to face her again. You have prophesied our annihilation if human sacrifice continues, yet you have always spoken softly with respect and affection. There is a legend I have heard, told to me by a wanderer from the desert, of another god, far across the oceans, who spoke as you have spoken of gentleness and love, who was taken by those who opposed him and crucified as we crucify common thieves. Barbara did not reply. Otlock looked away, then turned back to her. What I can do, I shall do, he said. Farewell. And he walked with dignity from the temple. 2 points there. One, that speech is not in the televised version. When Otlock takes his leave of Barbara, he does think she's a false goddess at one point, but then he comes around again and is okay with it, but he doesn't have the speech with her. She doesn't, say bestiality and all that. But they don't make any mention of Jesus. And also, this is the bigger question, would the Aztecs have heard anything about Jesus by 1530?
I don't know, when I read that, to me, I didn't think about Jesus.
Really?
For some reason. I thought of the people, okay, somebody from some other area saw some white people come over or something, and maybe asked them about what was somehow they talked.
Right.
And someone had talked about how people came over and maybe did bad stuff to them. Maybe I just didn't think about Jesus, I don't know, but I didn't think of it as that when I read it. That's not the first thing that came to my mind. Maybe I just wasn't putting it 2 and 2 together.
Okay.
But I took it as
I
just took it as more of somebody came, told them about white people, and that maybe they had been crucified.
But that's just it.
Yeah.
That kind of nails it down.
Nail in the coffin.
No pun intended.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, but why would they have known about Jesus though?
Yeah. That's just it.
Maybe that's why I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Maybe they were missionaries. I don't know, but the Aztecs probably would have killed them.
Possibly, but again, there were other civilizations in the Americas at the time,
right?
That they could have had contact with. They could have had contact with other people, but I think even that, this timeline, it's too early. We're saying it's the 15.
It's 1500s, and I mean, it's 1500 AD.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would have been 1500 years after Jesus had risen.
It's 1507. So the Spaniards at that point would have been pretty strongly Catholic, I thought.
Yeah, they would have been Crusaders.
But early explorers, there wouldn't have been, much of any kind of Christian settlement.
That wouldn't have been their first thing to go after was trying to convert people to something else.
Yeah, even thinking they may have had contact with the First Nations of the United States. I don't even know that there were Puritans or anyone in the United States that people could have had contact with. That early on, they could have spread down to the Aztecs.
Yeah, not that early.
That's maybe why I didn't get the core. You know what I mean? I didn't think about it.
But I mean. Again, this is fiction,
yeah.
So Luke Curati may have taken his own artistic freedom to put that in there as a reference. I mean, I kind of glazed past that.
Yeah.
Initially, I read it and I thought,
yeah,
some other kind of religion, but yeah, it clearly says crucified like we do common thieves.
By his own people, but crucified common thieves, exactly.
Yeah, and so that's very clearly,
that
Jesus.
Specifically says who it is. And I cannot for the life of me figure out whether or not I think that's a good addition or whether it's an unnecessary
one. I think
one.
it's unnecessary.
I think it's unnecessary. I like it. I like the point of it.
Yeah.
I like what he's saying, but I feel like it's extreme.
I don't think it changes anything.
No.
Okay, so 3 votes, listeners. Unnecessary.
Yeah, I just think I think, and that's why when I read it, that's why my brain didn't go, Jesus. You know what I mean?
As it does.
It did afterwards, because I remember thinking I think I was thinking were they thinking about Jesus? But then I was like, no, that would not make any sense. And that's why I just kind of was oh, maybe they mean something.
I mean, the readers probably are.
Yeah.
There are lots of nice little touches in this book, such as the doctor's dismay at the stairs, because you remember how dismayed he was at the horse riding, and now he's looking at all those stairs and thinking, oh my God, every time I want to see Barbara, I have to go up these damn stairs.
And that even, I can't think of specifics, but I know in the new series there have been plenty of opportunities for the doctor to complain about.
Yeah.
any kind of physical activity.
And Ian talking about how he wishes he could build a home like those of the Aztecs in England, but yeah, Adobe probably wouldn't go over too well.
No, the weather would not.
Not in the 1960s.
No.
Oh, and in the weather, for that matter. Susan has some nice moments, especially her remark about cutting out people's hearts and chucking them down the temple stairs, which is another line that's not in the original. There are plenty of things. There are all sorts of things. Even at the beginning of Chapter 4, Lucarati has the Doctor point out something I'd always wondered about. How would the people below ever hear the ceremony?
Right.
They don't.
They don't.
They don't.
It's all action. It's all observing what's happening.
Yeah, it's just being present for it.
The only people that need to know the words are the people upstairs actually doing the ceremony.
Exactly.
It's like church back in the day.
Exactly. And the people behind the BBC cameras
Yeah.
filming the whole thing. How about the characters? How, apart from the TARDIS crew, how well written are these characters, Otlock and Tlotoxl, or did those names just sort of blur into one uber Aztec for you?
No, I thought they each of the supplementary characters really had like a, without being as well rounded as the TARDIS crew, like you still got who they were, how they were, their demeanor. There were a lot of descriptors of kind of them being menacing,
Right.
or Outlook always seemed more calm and introspective, and
Constantly fingering his posy.
yeah, and so Toxel always seemed very like accusatory and very much like, I know the right answer, I am the one in authority, I am this, I am this, I am this. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the supplementary characters really set them. They were whole characters, even though that was just for this adventure.
Okay.
I agree. The only guy who got a little bit puzzling to me, and it wasn't because I didn't understand till the end that he was a snake, was the sacrifice. I don't know how to say his name. Tlotoxl.
Oh,
Tlotoxl or whatever.
Tlotoxl?
The guy who was the sacrifice guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Tlotoxl.
his little guy. His
second in
his,
command.
His
it was
second
something
in
with an
command.
A. It was something with an A. It sounded like
Tanilla.
Tanilla.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, he was kind of like mudded up in my brain, but at the end he was he came in full force because he was like a little snake guy. You know what I mean? He was a little
Okay.
jerk. So I was like, okay, that guy, you gotta watch out for him.
Right.
But everybody else's characters were really like defined, and I thought because of the names, that they would get kind of confusing because I didn't know how to pronounce all of them.
Right.
But yeah, no, every character stood out and had its own place, and you didn't get. I actually thought with this book, the characters themselves, other than the TARDIS crew, were probably the most standoutish. You know what I mean? And it was weird because of their names, and I thought that would like kind of make it different.
But it's the opposite way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who was your favorite among those characters?
I like Outlook. I liked him. I always tend to gravitate towards calm priest-like, characters. Someone who is looking more for a larger answer to a problem as opposed to just thinking he automatically knows what's right and wrong.
Right.
I really liked him. I liked some of his back and forth with Barbara. Not necessarily disagreeing with her immediately, saying like, I want to believe you. I want to believe that you are this person you say you are, or at least someone who is not going to try to lie to me and
Right.
try to use me. Even if you aren't, eventually
Which
he's
is
like,
exactly what she's doing.
yeah, and he's like, even if you aren't this person, you're not doing anything to prove to me that you are going to deceive me in any way.
Yeah.
So he does give her trust, even when she doesn't necessarily prove that she deserves it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then is it Kameka?
Kamika.
I really liked her.
I'm gonna totally agree with you on both of those things. Yeah, and there's not much more to add to it. No, like I totally agree with you. Like he's my number one character that I liked, and then she was the second.
Okay.
They both had like good qualities. They both advanced the story a lot. They made the story better. Yeah, they just both had. They were like the two most standoutish characters, even though most people go for like the bad guys. I guess like both of us are into the good guys or something.
Right, And that would be me too.
Yeah.
I adore Kameka.
Yeah.
I really do. I love the televised version because for some reason Lucarati describes her as plump.
I kind of got that
She's not.
No.
And he describes Tanilla at one point as portly and balding, and that's not, that character.
Not in the show. Not in the
does
show.
not look like that
No.
at all.
That's what I kind of got out of her, though. Like, my thought of how she would look would be kind of like a pretty, like, little old lady.
Yeah.
You know what
she
I mean?
is.
Like a sweet little old lady,
Yeah.
but that's, like, cute and, like, seemed like would be the Doctor's type.
She is very, she's a very forceful, very formidable woman in the televised version. Again, we'll have to watch it whenever we have our pizza party.
Yeah, we have to have her.
Yes.
But I got some of that from the description in the book too, though. It was more like she had come to this place in Aztec society where she could just be this old grandma type, but back in her day, and even they kind of described her as that way of like she was strong, even though
She was
she
the one
was
that
old.
Well, that's
Everybody
what I
came to
liked.
for
That's what I
advice.
liked about her too. That I didn't talk about was that even the like priest of knowledge or whatever was like I come to you for advice all the time. Like in a different world, you would be me and I'd be a farmer.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like it's all about the place and time and where they're at. That's like. Okay, well, women here in this time, they have to get married to people they don't want to get married to and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? So, like, for her time, she's, like, the smartest person, and she just so happens to be a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think the only reason that Barbara, for instance, is accepted as an authority figure is because she's believed to be the reincarnation of a male priest. So apart from that, I'd say that Kameka is probably the strongest female character.
Yeah.
Except for when Barbara pulls the knife on Tlotoxl.
Yeah.
I love
she
that
did.
moment.
Yeah.
Well, I
she
mean,
got him behind
I
back
adore
with a
that.
knife to her
And
throat.
she says, when he says, if you're a god, save him, and she pulls a knife and holds it to his throat
Yeah.
and says, okay.
That was good.
See, there's that espionage, there's that spy
There you go.
movie, there's that James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
And it seems to work just as well on the page, too,
Yeah.
which is really quite nice. There are many improvements that Lucarati makes, and my notes are full of them. It's just ridiculous, especially Barbara figuring out herself that her drink is poison, for instance.
yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in the televised version. Ian knows it's poison and he warns her off.
Yeah.
But
But I think that's important, realizing, they've tried to fool me once, and now I'm not going to fall for it again. I'm going to be wary.
right.
And I'm going to be, no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fall for that twice.
Yeah. Plus, she was already knowing that they're like on some shit anyway.
Right.
She was
Exactly.
like, these guys are not in my favor. Like, I'm going to watch everything they do.
I always wondered why it was that she actually bothers to tell Tlotoxl. She says, you would have killed me because I'm not Yetaxa. She just comes right out.
Yeah,
with it.
that was something that I thought was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
That was another one of those things where, like, she should have just kept her mouth shut.
I've never understood that moment in the story.
Yeah.
Because
it makes
that's
no
the
sense.
that's the
Well,
last
because
person.
then she's like, oh, well, then if you try to tell anybody, they're not going to believe you. Like, of course
And
they
yeah,
might
she
believe
tries
her.
to pull rank on him.
Yeah, and
on
it's
top
like-
of it. And then realizes that she's messed it all up.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Still, she messes
Like,
it
why
all
would
up.
you even bother?
Yeah. It's just a very, very
Yeah, that was odd
moment.
to me.
Are there any other odd moments that you can think of, or any other moments that work particularly well for you?
I really like the sequence of Ian getting back up into the tomb.
Oh, really?
The kind of Indiana Jones spot with the Doctor, getting him back to the tunnel that he then has to crawl through,
yeah.
and the water
Come
fills
out.
up,
Yeah,
and he has
okay.
to take his last breath, and
He finds
you
the
know,
skeleton.
Yeah, and then he gets out, and then it's just like this really, I don't know, I'd have to go back and kind of read the description of it, but yeah, just the way that he ended up kind of in this solitary space.
Him having to climb up the rocks as they were
Yeah.
falling down, and then he sees the dude's dad
Yeah.
skeleton.
Yeah, and
Like,
then
what was he doing up there?
Yeah.
he was
That he had
climbing-
gone in at one point to do some maintenance.
Oh,
got
and that's what
trapped.
happened?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because he had disappeared.
Oh.
Yeah, because that was the thing. They no
I
one knew what happened
didn't figure
to
the
him.
maintenance part. I just didn't understand, like, why he was there.
Yeah, he'd gone into it for something or
Yeah,
other. and
he I don't think
Maybe
they
he went to
even-
go steal more
didn't
jewelry
really
for
say.
what
They don't. Yeah, I don't think.
Possibly.
I don't think it's ever really described why he went in. They just say that
Yeah.
he disappeared in the garden one
Yeah.
day.
And
But
that's
yeah, that part was very interesting to me.
It's
like
better on the page than it is in the televised version.
Really?
The televised version, oh my god. It's just, it's the worst type of mime acting.
I can see it being like a guy going up like a big
It's
a big
basically
rock.
William Russell doing this against a wall.
Great.
And it's like, oh, for God's sake, that just looks awful. And you never get a sense of what he's actually doing. You just know that the water's rising, but then suddenly he's above the water. It's like, no.
Yeah.
This makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, because and in the book it definitely gives you like the sense of urgency of, oh crap, he's gonna die. He's gonna get stuck. He's not gonna get out. Of course, he's lost forever.
Right.
And
I loved all the moves Ian was putting on the people, like the pressure points. That was my favorite part about it, was that like he's like defeating this Aztec warrior who's like trained in like Mortal Kombat with like pressure points.
Yeah,
I thought that was great.
The
like,
part where they talk about him getting him in a full Nelson.
That's what I thought was great. That was like probably
okay, Ian, go ahead.
So far,
I was like, there's no way he's gonna beat this guy. And then I was like, oh, pressure points. Got him.
So
like,
Ian Chesterton knows pressure points.
Jiu-jitsu.
He knows jiu-jitsu. He knows judo.
Karate.
He knows karate. He can box.
Yeah.
The hell?
This guy just knows everything.
Why is
like,
he a
why
science
was he a
teacher? You should be running a
He
gym
could have done anything.
in East London or something. But then he never would have ended up traveling with the TARDIS crew. Yeah, it is bizarre. Anything that didn't work for you?
Just what I stated earlier with the whole string thing and trying to get into the temple.
The physics.
Yeah, the quick ending, the wrap it up ending.
Yeah.
It's just
I could have done without that.
Yeah.
They could have made it like 150 pages. I would have read the extra 30 pages.
Yeah, and I would have too, especially with the story.
Or just a little more, like one or two more pages of like how it actually was working, whatever.
Actually, I should ask you, Dalton, does this book work better for you than Marco Polo?
Yeah, and I liked Marco Polo.
I remember
I enjoyed Marco Polo. I feel like this one, though, as opposed to Marco Polo that had a lot of what you have called the travelogue, the star date, blah, blah, blah. Today we're here, you know, we're going through the Gobi Desert. And it's like, okay, like how much more of the desert is the desert is the desert?
7 episodes worth.
This one really, there was a lot going on, and even though there was a lot going on, I still like kept up with it. I still was interested in it, and I feel like it was an appropriate length. It didn't feel like it was too much to put in there, and it didn't feel like it was too little to put in there.
And I think that comes from Luca Radi adapting a 4-part story as opposed to a 7-parter.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to. It's still his script, but he's got the same page count to have to deal with. And this one, he's able to expand on things that he always wanted to expand on, whereas Marco Polo, he's like, no, I got to report dialogue. He still does that here, but not as much. So, yeah, I like this one better, too. Well, as we always do, let's go to Goodreads.com for online reviews of the book written by other readers, then follow up with our own ratings. By the way, if you're listening to this podcast and want to have your review featured when we get to an upcoming book, simply read the book, write a review on Goodreads, and then write a comment on our Facebook page so that we have a chance to see it before discussing the book ourselves. You may just get your review read out loud here, and if you put a comment on our page, you of course get a free book. No one's been commenting on the page, so it's been very difficult to find people to send free books to.
Jerks.
Yeah.
Free books, guys.
Don't call them jerks. They're not jerks. Now, this is what you can comment on the Facebook page about, the fact that Sheena called you all jerks. Okay. I may just leave that in. The average rating. The average rating for this story, out of 5 stars is 3.53. Here are some sample reviews. Nicholas White does not give it a starred rating, but apparently he didn't like it. I was disappointed by Luke Riley's novelization of The Massacre, which struck much more closely to his original script than the show is broadcast, and that's coming up later. Here again, he's added bits and pieces which presumably were in the original concept, and I was again disappointed, but for a different reason. The narration is strangely flat. You said it was flat. And you really miss the performances of the actors breathing life into Luca Radi's lines back in 1964. One cannot help but feel that the production team on the whole did Luca Radi a favor by editing his material. Also, he has a really annoying habit of mixing indirect speech with direct speech. Yes! I'm sorry, I just realized that was in that
Yeah.
review. That's something I said last time. It reads like a desperate attempt to make a novel out of a TV script. Stephen Poore gave it 4 stars. Unlike many of the straight Target novelizations thus far, this one really stands up on its own as a solid piece of writing. As much as Aztec civilization and culture is alien to us, he's made a fine attempt at showing how jarring the clash between modern social mores and the Aztec way of life would be. There are only three main strands to the story, however, and Susan's character is effectively relegated to a bit part because of that, but this is more than made up for by the focus on Barbara's frustration and not being able to change history at all. And finally, Layla Anani, who gave it 3 stars, writes, "The Doctor, Hartnell, and companions Barbara and Ian take the TARDIS back to Mexico in 1507 in the midst of the Aztec civilization. The beginning of this is excellent, but I lost interest in the middle. It has a heartbreaking end in which we realize that historical timelines cannot be changed, underscoring the tragic nature of a Time Lord." That makes sense. Definitely not my favorite Who story. Being an Aztec tale, it has lots of complicated, silly-sounding names and not enough action to sustain my undivided attention in the middle. It's also not the best production William Russell reads it. She's listening to the audiobook. But doesn't have the presence of some of the other narrators. For those who like historical Who tales, give this a go, but it's definitely not the best out there. Okay, well, out of 5 stars. Dalton, what would you give this one?
I'm leaning towards like a 4.
Okay.
Just because of all of the elements involved, all of the things I like I said, like this reminds me, a lot of it is like a spy story. It very much is like each character is having to figure out a part of the puzzle in a way, and they're all working towards getting out of there. And a lot of times they're working on parts of a puzzle that are conflicting to each other. With all of the two-facedness of some of the characters, the Doctor thinking he's helping someone and it's really hurting one of his companions.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that.
I really liked it. Some of the reading is a bit wordy and it's kind of long, but I enjoyed it. I read through it pretty quickly. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of just it goes. You kind of just start reading and can't stop reading.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it, and I think I've talked about that before. How the reading level itself it's for like preteens. It's for or teenagers. It's not for like critical adults.
Yeah.
So
which is
that
fine.
that type of writing, given that, I would have loved to have read this as a teenager.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sheena?
I need to start writing down when I give things.
Because it's coming.
Okay, I would give it like a 3.65. I liked it a lot. I know at the beginning I said I didn't, but I did. I didn't say I didn't like it. I just said it was kind of like I don't know, like a really simple read. But I did like all the things that were pointed out in our conversation, like the moral stuff, the philosophical stuff. I liked that. I liked some of the things seemed kind of hokey a little bit, which was okay. I did like little little stuff like, the whole little romance and stuff like that. I think it was a good book. I like that it was in the Americas, because we haven't read one where it has been in the Americas yet.
Yeah,
that's true.
So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, so I liked it. I mean, if I were going to give somebody a book to probably read first, even though I've given other books better ratings, I'd probably have them read this, like one of the first ones.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's a good story because, like, you can kind of not relate to it, but you kind of understand, like, what's going on in the story just because it's on this planet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
But, yeah, so I liked it. I liked the fact that it had to do with, like, a time frame on Earth, even though I kind of like the time frames that aren't on Earth better, right. So that's probably why I like the more sci-fi stories. But, that's just me.
And for me, while I still think Lucarotti does do far too much reporting of dialogue, he pulls this story off so much better than he does Marco Polo. Probably because the story is less a travelogue and more specifically a novel of political machinations and intrigue. While the televised story is among the best of the best, Digital Spy actually called it one of the 10 best episodes of all time.
You know, I gotta see it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Lucarati actually improves on some of it in this book, deepening some of the interactions with Kameka, fixing some inconsistencies, making Barbara's saving of Outlook more immediate, even making Ian less a cold-blooded murderer, if that's actually what he was. I was fully expecting not to like this one, rereading it after reading Marco Polo, but while it's not one of the best historicals, those are still coming. We're going to read some kick-ass historical books quite soon. This is definitely Lucarati's best work, reflecting what an amazing job he did on screen. So I'd give this one 3.8 out of 5 stars.
That's a high score from you.
Yeah, definitely for Lucarati, it's a high score. All right, well, thank you guys again for being part of this, and thank you, fellow time travelers, for giving us your valuable time. Next time we'll be reading Doctor Who The Censorites, which is a science fiction-y one, so there we go. In the meantime, if you've liked what you've heard here, like us on Facebook. If you had a comment on that page, if you think there's something we missed here, or you just want to tell us you like us in words, you'll be entered in our next Target book giveaway. This time, some lucky fan randomly picked by me will get a gently used copy of Doctor Who and the 10th Planet, the first story with the Cybermen that are about to come back in the Peter Capaldi season that we're about to get, the original Cybermen.
Oh, they're coming back?
Yes, the Mondasian Cybermen, the one that look all crazy, and yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm gonna squee on Mike. Sorry. Check our Facebook page at Doctor Who Target Book Club Podcast, all one word of those spaces for more details. Also, feel free to give us a thumbs up on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, we're at DWTargetBC, or subscribe to us via the podcast provider of your choice. We are on, deep breath, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. TuneIn's the one I forgot last time. Sorry, TuneIn.
Sorry, TuneIn.
Yes, if you really like us or you really, really don't like us, post your comments, suggestions, questions, or any of or all of the above platforms. Email us at dwtargetbc@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening, and until then, enjoy your travels. Bye-bye.
Sorry, I called you jerks.
I'm gonna have to leave that in now. I'm gonna have to leave that in.
I just figured we wanted a free book.